global coronavirus infection cases double in a week to pass 300,000. The global spread of the novel coronavirus is accelerating rapidly, with cases of infection doubling in a week to top 300,000 Sunday, pointing to the increasing challenges for governments worldwide as they lock down more people and shut borders. Cases in the U.S. alone crossed 26,000, as President Trump declared a major disaster in New York State and considered similar declarations for California and other hard-hit states, while the governor of Hawaii announced a mandatory 2-week self-quarantine for all arrivals. The number of deaths from the disease globally surpassed 13,000 as of Sunday, according to the data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. Italy on Saturday again recorded its highest one-day death toll for any country, with 793 fatalities. On Sunday, Singapore announced it would no longer allow short-term visitors to enter or transit through the country, saying it needs to conserve resources to focus on Singaporeans. The new measure shows the rising concern that is gripping many Asian countries of importing fresh cases from travelers as the infection spreads rapidly in Europe and North America. The latest on the coronavirus: global cases of coronavirus infection passed 300,000, doubling in a week. Infection cases exceed 26,000 in the U.S. Italy on Saturday again records highest one-day death toll for any country, with 793 fatalities. Global death toll surpasses 13,000, according to Johns Hopkins. India implements a one-day nationwide lockdown on Sunday. The Singapore government said nearly 80% of new coronavirus infections over the last 3 days were imported. Across the city, many stores and restaurants were more aggressively encouraging social distancing, marking red X's on dining chairs and placing lengths of tape to space out checkout lines. Singapore had 432 confirmed cases as of Sunday. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, where confirmed cases jumped by 44 on Sunday to 317, officials ordered civil servants to work from home again and postponed university entrance exams. The city recently imposed a 14-day mandatory quarantine on all visitors as a second wave of infections is being fueled by people flying into the city. Over the weekend, Hong Kong police conducted spot checks in the city's nightlife district in search of quarantine violators, announcing a zero-tolerance policy toward violators. 4 people were found in violation of the order, according to local media. Meanwhile, Malaysia called on its army to patrol the streets and enforce travel restrictions. The country has 1,183 cases of infection. Questions about whether Japan could continue with the 2020 Olympic Games continue to mount, with the U.S. Track and Field Federation becoming the latest American sports organization to push for a delay to the Games. Vice President Mike Pence says about 19,300 people in the U.S. have tested positive for the novel coronavirus out of more than 195,000 people who have been tested so far. Photo: Patrick Szymanski/Associated Press. India implemented a one-day nationwide lockdown on Sunday, hoping to slow the virus's spread and give citizens and policymakers a sense of how the massive democracy would behave under such unprecedented restrictions. In Australia, bars, nightclubs, casinos, movie theaters and places of worship will close at noon on Monday. The government said schools should stay open until the end of the first term, which varies between 1 and 3 weeks depending on the state. At Centennial Park in Sydney, the capital New South Wales state, visitors on Sunday could be seen taking selfies during their likely last weekend of freedom to roam around. The blistering speed of the virus's spread, however, shows the growing challenge confronting policymakers, many of whom are implementing more drastic containment efforts at huge costs to their economies. A masked man walks through a Hong Kong bar district on Saturday. Photo: Isaac Lawrence/Agence France Presse/Getty Images. It took weeks for the first 100,000 cases of the coronavirus to be recorded, most of them in China after the initial outbreak in Wuhan began in December. The next 100,000 global cases occurred in 12 days, and it took just 3 days to go from 200,000 to 300,000. While Chinese authorities say they have contained domestic infections, with barely any community infections in recent days, the pandemic has reached more than 100 countries. Each new case appears to be causing about 3 new infections since the beginning of the outbreak, said Dale Fisher, an infectious disease expert at the National University of Singapore. The whole world knew this was coming and some countries prepared, he said, while the rest clearly weren't ready. The U.S. has seen a surge in new cases, surging tenfold from a week earlier. In recent days, more American states have moved to restrict citizens' movements and shut down non-essential services to stem the outbreak. The economic toll of the virus is getting worse. Hotel chain Marriott International Incorporated confirmed on Saturday that it would furlough thousands of employees around the world. Global travel has plunged in recent weeks and airlines have cut routes drastically. In Washington, congressional negotiators were working to complete a stimulus bill designed to blunt the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The Trump administration endorsed an expansion of unemployment insurance that Senate Democrats have been seeking, clearing a major hurdle toward a bill. The plan under discussion would include a financial response of more than $2 trillion, including aid from the Federal Reserve. More than 195,000 people in the U.S. have been tested for the virus, Vice President Mike Pence said at a White House news conference. A spokeswoman for Mr. Pence separately announced that the vice president and his wife both tested negative for the coronavirus after a staffer in his office contracted it.